Doctors and nurses of Reddit, have you ever witnessed a couple have a child that was obviously not the father's? What happened? Had two women deliver on the same unit, same baby daddy. He would go back and forth between rooms, face with wide open eyes and flushed cheeks. That's wild. They call it ghetto twins where I live, lol. A hospital where I was a med student had a baby born with high drops, which is where a baby gets two bad copies of a red blood cell gene, one from each parent. Baby died shortly after birth. Parents came in for genetic counseling and testing revealed the woman's husband did not carry the alpha thalassemia gene. The couple asked what was the chance another baby of theirs would have this condition. The doctors were honest and told them 0%. They left it at that. Did the dad understand the implications of that? Edit. I meant husband. See? Give her a break, it's easy to mix the two up. Not a doctor, but my wife grew up in a really small town, but wasn't born there. When she got her first crush on a boy and told her best friend, the friend was like, did you talk to your mom yet? Apparently, adultery was so widespread in this area. It was common practice for girls to talk to their mom about crushes and who the crush's parents were so they didn't end up dating their half-sibling. There's a song about that. Guy wants to court a girl but his dad keeps telling him no. That girl is your sister, but you mama don't know. He talked to his mama and she says go man, go. Yo daddy ain't your daddy, but your daddy don't know. Damn. That's a good Netflix show right there, lol. Had a mum-to-be who had narrowed the options for baby daddy down to her top 3. She was having a C-section and didn't understand why all 3 potential dads couldn't come into theater. She then asked if we could rotate them through, and maybe she'd let the one that was there when baby came out be the real daddy. Took all my professionalism to smile politely. I've just imagined a 9-year-old one-up a kid from gay couple by saying ye well I have 3 dads, beat that. My wife worked as an intern in a law firm back in 1991. A woman was pregnant and subpoenaing men for paternity testing. She subpoenaed 19 men and all of them tested negative. Must have been a busy weekend for her. A nurse friend of mine told me about helping with a vasectomy when the doctor saw that the patient, a married father of 2 children, was clearly infertile and would have been all his life. Due to the man taking Valium before the local anesthetic, the doctor made the guy come back for a follow-up where he had to explain the man's medical condition to him. No idea what the fallout was. I can't imagine. In what way was he obviously infertile? Not quite on topic, but African American babies usually are much lighter skin right after birth and then tend to get a little darker. The nurses usually warn the fathers about this, but I guess no one had told this guy. We were in a C-section and the baby came out significantly lighter than the father and we all saw his face drop. Thankfully the nurses saw it and told him that the baby looked exactly like him. Laughed about it later. They told us, mother half white half Hispanic, dad is black. Look at the scrotum. He, LL get to be about that dark. He's still a little lighter 2 months. I worked in a restaurant right after high school, and there was a couple who worked there too. When the girlfriend got pregnant, she dipped out on him and moved back to her family in Alaska. After a month or so the boyfriend got enough cash together to follow her. He dropped out of college and got a job on her dad's fishing boat to support his new family. Months later the baby is born and it becomes more obvious why the girl took off. Because they're both white and that baby was black. That dude was a class act. It's too bad his girl couldn't work up the courage to tell him the truth instead of just bailing out. Now she looks even worse. Still the guy dodged a bullet, a thought bullet. My brother's best friend didn't resemble his father while growing up, so he became more and more suspicious. The father eventually did a DNA test when my brother's friend was 11 or 12 and found out it's not his. The parents split up with the older daughter, 16. Going with the father because she resembled him, so he was sure about her. Poor situation for everyone. The kid lost his father in that situation. He knew nothing different and it wasn't his fault. Talk about an attachment disorder starting point. Why do beat cheats think it's okay to bring a child in this shocksy situation? Like cheating in itself is bad, but bringing the child of that cheating into the marriage and expect no one will find out, messed up thinking. My mum's friend has 3 sons to her ex-husband. 2 of them look like him. The second one looks a lot like the man she left her husband for, but of course they didn't get together until after she divorced her husband. Doesn't help how her new partner very clearly has a favorite kid. First husband's child support bill most certainly includes the third child though. I had a doctor that thought my boy wasn't mine because he came out blonde with blue eyes. I'm half native with dark hair, dark green eyes, and my dad is a blonde blue green eyed dude. My wife is a very dark brunette and her dad is a blonde blue green eyed dude. It got grandfathered in. He is tested genetically as mine. But the doctor was very iffy. This happened to me and my ex. Although I wish he wasn't his. He tested our kid 3 times. Like the doctor told me it's possible. It's just not very probable. Damn recessive genes. That seems very weird and unethical for a doctor to say this. Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. Not a doctor, but I worked in adoptions. A couple showed up wanting to discuss adoption. She was so obviously pregnant. The catcher. She and he both insisted that they had never had sex of any kind. Only heavy petting, and they assumed some semen had traveled through clothing. I don't know what happened because they never came back. Edit. This is an assumption. But my assumption was that she had had sex with someone. Just not the man she was in a committed relationship with. Technically she can get pregnant without penetration. But it's very difficult. I was a nurse for a urologic surgeon. So lots of vasectomies. Guy came and beeped off that he had gotten his wife pregnant after his vas. He had never originally followed up to make sure his swimmers were dead. Doc had him leave a sample to look under the microscope. Went back to the exam room and told him his vas had been successful. Guy just walked out. Our NICU does not allow paternity testing to be done inpatient, and some of our babies stay with us for 3-6 months depending on their gestation. We've had a few long and awkward waits for babies to get discharged before we could find out who the dads are. The 2 most recent cases were babies born at 23 and 25 week gestations, both kids with 3 possible dads. None of the potential dads stayed involved in the 3+ month hospital stay waiting to find out if they're the father. It's so awkward for the staff. Why not allow the testing? Just out of curiosity. My husband is a surgical technician. Years ago he helped deliver a baby via emergency C-section. The baby was black and born to 2 very white parents. The dad freaked out and left the hospital with the mom in tears. The doctor convinced him to get a paternity test and he did end up being the father. Genetics is weird. I love genetics. We're a white family, but every now and then a much darker baby is born. We have a distant ancestor from Africa and still carry that gene. It's mainly the men that show it, but some of us girls definitely have non-Caucasian elements too. Pretty hard to come back from that one. Emotions are high, yes, but your wife is always going to remember how you left her after the hardest time of her life. I'd be surprised if they worked that one out. I work in a NICU and frequently babies will come down to our units accompanied by their father while mom is still getting stitched up, and it is usually the time when fathers will question us about how to do a paternity test, or they will ask us questions like, does this baby look half black to you, or would you say this baby could be mine or not? We've also had an occasion where mom has admitted to us dad isn't baby's father, but we're not legally able to say anything, so we just have to pretend we know nothing and we'll just submit a social work consult to look into the situation a bit more. Preemies can look very dark skinned because they have so little fat under their skin. Go to tell the families that. Obligatory, not a Dr. Fremulin, SHHH. But I know a couple that were very excited to have twins. Baby birthday comes. Mom and dad are in the delivery room. Baby 1 comes out and it's immediately clear they aren't his. He's white. She's white. The babies are not. The community was shook. They're divorced now. Edit. A few people are commenting that it could be a throwback to a few generations ago. It was not in this case. The DNA test proved that they were in fact the children of her coworker. 99. LOL at Fremulin. My cousin is white, brown hair, green eyes. Her hubby looks black, dark skin, hair, eyes. Soon before the delivery of their son, the nurse says, "Ooh, I love caramel colored skin." She was very quiet when a pale white baby, blonde hair and blue eyes popped out. My cousin's hubby's father was also born blonde hair, blue eyes. He takes after his father's father lol. Edit. She had another baby boy who looks very similar to his brother. Yeah, genetics are weird and stuff, but it's kinda weird to say that you love caramel colored skin. Was a postpartum nurse for several years. I had several dads say the baby wasn't theirs because the baby wasn't black enough and she must have been with a white boy behind his back. It takes a few days for the baby's pigment to darken. What I was taught by a senior nurse was that when you look at the baby's testicles, if it's a boy, it will tell you how dark the pigment of their skin will be. But you could tell these men were just looking for any excuse to ditch out on the baby. Very sad. Just checked and can confirm that my skin tone of my testicles match the rest of my body. Also, I'm being kicked out of the airport lounge and being told not to ever come back. Yup, that is very common. Told this one before. A doctor I worked with told me the oddest birth he attended was a white woman who had birth in total silence. Not in a Scientology silence birth way. Normal delivery room noise and chatter from doctor and midwives. White husband really excited etc. But the woman, not one sound. Grimace, nothing. Black baby. The husband looked at the baby and just left the room. What is a Scientology silence birth? Hmong women give birth in absolute silence. It's part of their traditional beliefs. I've read a lot of comments on how the newborn clearly doesn't resemble the father, but I have a problem with this. Like, how can you tell? It's a newborn. They are purplish gray and look like tiny old people. I've had a friend give birth to a baby that looked Asian with dark brown skin. My friend and her husband are white. Looked nothing like her or the father for the first couple of months. Later on her skin turned paler as well. This is true. Babies come out looking all swollen and squishy and all sorts of colors. My family is Latin American and my oldest brother came out quite dark. My other brother came out white and I came out bright pink. We're all the same now. I've thought this too. I'm sure there are plenty of me, myself and Irene situations where it's clear, but yeah, when my kids were born neither of them resembled anything but a lump of greyish pink alien flesh. Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. Did the Crayon comic inspire this? I have seen that comic. A meme in this post today. Weird topic to pop up. I was wondering the same thing. I had a close-ish call story. My wife and I make jabs at each other over our blood type. She's A, I'm A+, so I like to say mine is better because I got an A+. Anyway, when my twins were in the NICU this came up and we asked what the blood type was. Again, it always seemed to be a self-esteem thing. We both looked at each other confused, and the doctor came over immediately to explain how this is easily possible. Basically we are both AO type, which just comes out as A in the test. We both passed on the O, and voila. Plot twist. The doctor was an O and covering his tracks. Yes, it comes out as A becomes the allele for A and B type blood are dominant over the O allele. If you are BO then your blood type is B, you have the O but it can't do anything except be passed on. There was a white couple who had a black child. When the baby was born, the husband tried to divorce the mother. The court ordered a genetic testing to prove the mother's case and it was indeed the man's child. The skin tone was simply a different color because of an unknown family history on one of their sides. It doesn't help anything or anyone to jump to conclusions. I actually warned my husband about exactly this. He's got super white Irish genes and I've got a mixture of what my dad calls black German. If we make babies, don't be shocked when some of them come out brown. Love the details in this one. Not a medical provider but my wife's friend, white, was married to a white man but had an ongoing affair with a black UPS driver. Panicked right before delivery and told her husband she was raped by a black man. The baby ended up being white but the husband figured things out and they divorced soon afterwards. She claimed she was raped by a black guy? That's almost worse than anything on here tbh. That deliberate lie. This couple had been married only a few months back. A month or so into the marriage, the lady had told him that she was carrying someone else's child. The husband was okay with the pregnancy as long as the child was given up for adoption. Twins were born and the mother died birthing them. The twins were given up for adoption to an orphanage that had associated itself with a hospital. Now this is extremely sad. Sad, but sounds like it worked out as well as it could have given the circumstances for the kids. Infant children are the easiest to adopt out and will usually do the best being adopted. Came here for juicy stories, wasn't disappointed. Same. This is better than watching trashy TV. Reddit cuts right to the chase. Doctor here. Wasn't my patient. It was my daughter. I knew the moment she crowned and had confirmation after state mandated testing came back within the next couple weeks. I chose to raise her regardless, but the last couple years have been, shall we say, challenging. Sad. Why did you choose to raise her? This was like 25 years ago. I went to the hospital with a friend the night his son was born. This guy was a straight up surfer dude with nearly white blonde hair. To make a long story short, his son was as black as night. To his credit, he didn't care. I recall him saying, "F it, we'll figure this S out." That's my boy. So 25 years later, what's the story with those three now? Went to a delivery during residency, pediatrician, and the white mother was screaming I didn't have sex with no black man. I ain't no ducker over and over and over. Her baby was very black, also addicted to heroin. She had some issues. Holy shocks. Did the baby come out addicted to heroin, or just the mom? Not a doctor or nurse, but I was doing a client's immigration application and the government requested a DNA test for all the kids. There were like 5 I believe. Paternity test came back negative for 2 of the kids. The application was withdrawn. There's a DNA test for immigrating families? That's sick. Who are we to define their families? Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. Not a doctor or nurse, just have a family story. Before I met my husband's 2 cousins, he explained to me how his uncle had got with their mother during an overlap period, and they always knew there was a chance the older girl might not be biologically his, but nobody in the family wanted to know for sure. As far as everyone was concerned, she was his daughter and that was that. So I meet the cousins. My husband is Asian. His uncle is Asian. The younger of the girls is clearly half Asian. The older one, with her white skin, blue eyes and fair hair, looks very much like her mother. I'm half Japanese with very strong Japanese genes, very dark hair, dark brown eyes, and I had a kid with a white guy, curly light brown hair, blue eyes. My kid is now 4 with tan hair, blue eyes. I look like an Asian stepmom to my own kid. I'm confused. An Asian man married a white woman. One child looks half Asian. One looks white. What does that prove? If I'm reading correctly. I was able to witness a birth for my pre-med volunteering. Of course the one time I'm able to. This ginger, hair color, they're pale and freckled. Couple has a black child. Edit. I forgot to add what happened. He wasn't even mad. Apparently they had an understanding like in Ducking Shameless. He just held the baby as soon as he could. I think they're still happy together. The dude was probably just happy that he was able to have a child with a soul. SAWW. That's genuinely sweet. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but a white female friend I had known since we were kids together got married to a white military man. He was stationed in Korea, so she went to visit him for a couple of months. Upon her return she informed us she was pregnant. We were all happy for them. My other friends and I put our money on her having a Korean baby. We were all quite shocked when she had the baby and it was a black baby boy. Beautiful child, but threw us all for a loop. Her husband filed for an annulment the next day. LOL. My other friends and I put our money on her having a Korean baby. So, yeah, all knew she was a hoe. Just not the race. Good ol' military. I didn't work an obgyn, but sorta related. When I got pregnant, we had to do blood tests to make sure I didn't have Rh blood, because many in my family do. My son's father found out that his blood type was B+. His mother's blood type is O+, and his father's is A+. It is impossible that his father was actually his biological father. So what was the fallout from that? Yes, There was suspicion before the birth, and the baby was clearly another ethnicity. The dad was asking how to get paternity testing throughout the night. Most of us were not 100% sure of the process, so he just kept asking everyone if the hospital could do it for him. Honestly, it was just sad. Birth is usually such a happy time, and so to watch a relationship quietly crumple and witness a child born into an unstable situation is just so heartbreaking. This question makes me wonder what the reaction was for my partner's mom and her husband, who isn't the father. She knew early on, but waited to tell my partner until he was 27. His bio dad has been living down the block wanting to be a part of his life the whole time, but mom made certain that didn't happen. She even denied his sisters when they tried reaching out. Some women, man, why didn't you want bio dad to be a part of your partner's life? Apparently, even if it's not his, could still be obligated to provide support if she cannot raise the child on her own. In my state, the husband is the father by default if they are married and you have to contest paternity. All this thread does is make me so happy I'm a gay man and don't have to deal with this shocks. We did IVF. If my kids don't genetically belong to my husband, not my fault, lol. I'm cis male. Years ago had an FTM partner make a pregnancy joke. I was not as amused. One of my favorite stories along this line are the two black parents that gave birth to a white baby. Definitely theirs. https://napost.com the 21st of July 2010 blonde bombshell. This kind of thing is so awesome and fascinating. Not a nurse, but my ex had the opposite with our son. He looks a lot like me, but has traces of his mom. My ex is native Honduran and I'm very German East Euro. She would walk with a friend who had a baby girl at the same time and everyone thought they were twins. Even my son asked me, "Mommy doesn't look like us." Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. I can only imagine the face of the doctor and nurses that delivered a family member's baby and the baby came out very obviously mixed. He tried telling us while they were together that he thinks she was cheating, but we brushed it off and said no way. Grimacing face. Not exactly the situation, but we are adopting a wonderful little girl. During the process, we have to make sure that we also work with the father to sort out parental rights on that side of things. The bio mother has brought 5 potential daddies into the test and all of them failed. We actually met 2 of them by accident, and they both seemed rather excited to be fathers, and seemed really into this whole "I'm going to be a daddy" thing. I can't imagine being so out there that 5 potential daddies have failed paternity. Careful, that level of promiscuous behavior is heritable. My brother and I, supposedly, have the same dad. However, he was never in our lives. We've seen pictures and I look pretty similar to him. My brother does not. My brother got a job as a ranch hand and one of his co-workers actually dated my mom back in the day. My brother sent me a picture. This guy is identical to my brother, except maybe 25 years older. I asked him if he was going to tell our mom, but he doesn't want to upset her. Not a doctor, but worked in the pharmacy. Husband went downstairs after the baby was delivered. He took the commercial chair and tossed it into the window, shattering it in the waiting area. It was Christmas season too, so that didn't help. Everyone was cold with the chilly winds coming in. I wonder what would happen to the wife afterwards. Defenestration? Probably. There's not much of a story here. For all we know, he threw the chair because there was a stillbirth or something. Not completely related, but when I studied medicine, we had a short course in genetics at the genetics faculty, which also did genetic testing for the university's hospital, and they told us that in 10% of the cases the person the subject thought were their dad wasn't their bio dad, and they didn't do paternity tests at this lab. This was strictly health related or forensic testing. Humans be humaning.